Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite-sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today we are on episode 33, and our topic is warming up.
Yeah, put the heating on. Well, you probably not in this economy.
Yeah, not in this economy. I actually have to do a warm-up now. Can't do the old joke
Yeah,
one.
God damn it.
So, I mean, part of an effective warm-up is in the name, warm, like increasing core body temperature is a reasonable part of a good warm up.
Hmm.
If you want a fairly accurate and concise set of things to do, if you want to build a warm up, what you are looking to do is you can follow the acronym RAMP, which is quite useful.
Yep.
Which is the R is raise body temperature, the A is activate, as in activate the nervous system, Uh, M is mobilize, and P is potentiate. So, what the fuck does that even mean? Um, raise heart rate, like raise body temperature, raise heart rate. You're looking for increase body temperature, increase heart rate, increase respiration rate, increase blood flow, and increase joint viscosity, which just means like move about. Like if you're one of these
Yeah.
people that like the first squat you do of a workout when you just go and sit down like just on your body weight just crunches about five different things, like various Rice Krispies seem to happen. Um, that's what we mean. Like it just gets a bunch of fluid and stuff kicking around, increase blood flow to the local areas, increase respiration rate, increase heart rate, increase body temperature. Again, if you feel kind of rough and you go into the gym and you warm up and you're like, oh, I actually feel like a decent bit better.
Yeah.
That unsurprisingly, like a quick body temperature increase, heart rate increase, and like respiratory rate increase will do that to you. Also, getting the blood flowing, same deal. It just gets everything kind of moving on more cylinders than it was.
Yeah.
Uh, Secondly, we're looking to do activate and mobilize. This can get a bit muddy. Um, Again, activate would be specifically if we are looking to do activities with a high level of nervous system excitement. We want to kind of prep for that, specifically plyometrics, jumps, sprints, things that would require a high degree or high demand on our nervous system to, yeah, get going. Um, yes, heavy lifting is a nervous system intensive activity, or like it requires like nervous system coordination and firing and stuff. However, you're going to get that warming up in your warm up weights if you're specifically lifting, like powerlifting, weightlifting. You're going to get a bunch of that when you work up. So you don't really need to do it in this step. We cover that later. But
Yeah.
with jumps, sprints, plyometrics, that kinds of stuff, you need to get it kind of going at the start and then build up because obviously a lot of them are open chain. You have to kind of relatively build up. Like you don't like your sprint workout isn't determined by how much weight you add to your sprint. It's mostly determined by like the intensity or relative intensity of sprint or distance that you're doing.
Yeah. And I'd say it's definitely key to kind of like slowly ramp up to it. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
don't just hit
because
like hit some 10 yarders at like 50% and then you're like right testing time.
because well, A, performance wise it's terrible, but B, it's actually the impacts from plyometrics and sprinting as part of that is far higher than squatting.
Oh yeah, you'd never be able to squat that kind of weight.
No.
No one would. No one would be.
Yeah. So definitely trying to, like the old adage of being like, oh yeah, sprint at 50%, now 60%. Almost like no one can be like, I am going to output 60% of my maximum power. Like you can't do it. But it's like the theory of kind of just going up in lots of little stages
Yeah,
rather
you're
than
attempting to increase relative intensity gradually
yeah.
over a reasonable warm up with plenty rest to the point where you then work up to a certain amount of work at
Mhm.
a very high, let's say full intensity. The
Yeah.
yeah, good luck fucking measuring 57% of your 1 RM sprint. Like,
Mm.
anyway, mobilizing again, that's a bit contentious with me just because I'm not entirely convinced a lot of people need to mobilize or, like, again, mobilize, stabilizing. I feel like more people will get a lot more out of stabilizing than they will doing any kind of foam rolling or mobility stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly because, how do I want to, like, put this concisely? The likelihood that any, yeah, like, for starters, the likelihood that you actually lack mobility in any given range, like the joint will not pass through the range required, is very low. Most of the time, it's the stuff that, like the other muscles or the muscles that are required to make it go through the full range are just either weak overall or just asymmetrically weak in that, like, for example, you can hip extend real good because you got big thick glutes, but you can't hip flex worth a shit because you don't do any hip flexor work and your hip flexors are really small.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, when you're trying to access that top range of hip flexion for sprinting or, for a stable bottom position in a squat, that's probably what's going to give first and going to give you, like, if you're squatting, that kind of pinchy weird feeling in, like, in your hip crease when you're down there, or just a kind of weird instability, lack of performance. Or again, it's going to affect your stride length when you're trying to sprint, or your ability to, like, scrape and recover and then go through your next stride. So it's not like you can't squat because you aren't that mobile. It's probably just you're weak in some weird wee place that you need to not be weak in. Or it could be a bunch of other things depending. But, like, that's probably, like, unsurprisingly, doing some, like, isometric hip flexion holds with, like, high tension core activation and stuff is going to be a lot more beneficial to both of those examples than just doing a sofa stretch.
Yeah.
Because, again, number one, your hip flexors probably aren't short, like, unless your bones have shrunk. Anyway, that's a whole different podcast argument. I'm going to get off on a rant.
Yeah.
And lastly, we just want to potentiate, which is essentially just do some low-level practice and work up.
Yeah.
So, like we kind of alluded to in sprints, similarly with lifting, you don't come in, squat the bar for, like 5 reps, and then you're like, cool, I'm working up to 80% for fives. You don't just chuck that on immediately. Um, so you'd maybe do like the bar, then, like, usually most people will stick a small plate on or a big plate on. Stick a plate on. Stick, like, an in between, then another plate in between. Like, whatever it happens to be. Take, like, a good 4 or 5 kind of warm up sets, depending on how many you do. Sometimes if you're quite new to the gym, you might not have that many options in between. But just do 2 to 3 reps. Make sure everything's feeling okay. Like, on the way up, use it as a guide to how the training is going to go. But, like, actually pay attention. Like, number one, another one that commonly comes up is folk being like, "Oh, I mean, the warm-ups felt like ass, but now that I'm kind of, like, in it, my working sets feel great." It's like, well, yeah, it's probably because you were dicking around during the warm-up. Like, you were just
Mm.
shooting the shit with your pals, kind of half paying attention, walking the bar out mid-conversation, doing a few reps, and then putting it back and being like, "Oh, it's not feeling good today." But then when you actually dial in and focus, you're like, "Oh, no, I feel great."
Oh. Yeah, I think warm ups frequently get kind of just overcomplicated. Like, I think, especially when we're talking about mobility, just people endlessly doing stuff for like 30 minutes. Right. Nah.
Oh yeah, it literally should probably be about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
so again, if we want an example of a full warm up, is literally the warm up I do for squats right now. Um, go in, fucking, I don't know, getting my knee sleeves on before I put my squat shoes on, and not get, like, if I forget, that's a good, like, body temperature increase because I get annoyed.
yeah.
That gets the heart rate up almost immediately. Jump on the C2 rower, do like 500 meters or something. Essentially, just go until I feel like I'm at a point where I'm, like, getting like a little bit sweaty. Like, I can feel a noticeable temperature increase. Like, if you felt that kind of warm on a bus, you'd probably take your coat off.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of just at the point of, like, if I stay this warm with this much clothing on, it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. Like, I'm gonna get sweatier. Um, Then, I mean, I also have one of those those fancy little like watch things that tells you your heart rate. So just wait
Yeah.
for a heart rate elevation. Notice a respiration increase rate. Again, if you can still shoot the shit and talk all the way through your warm up, like even at the end, you're either in decent shape or you haven't noticed like a decent recovery. Like you should notice it being a little less comfortable to talk.
Yeah.
Um, I get off, I go to the rack, I do some dead bugs just to get the abs on. Mostly because I find myself the main one I actually get out of dead bugs is like I add a reach, so I lie there again. If you have never done a dead bug, you lie on your back with your feet and arms, like with your feet tucked up and your arms straight out in front of you, kind of like a dead bug. Uh, However, a key coaching point that I've added in recently is to really add like a reach into the arms, and that almost always gives me some kind of delt cramp because I spend loads of my day kind of jacked up and shrugged up, so loads of my traps and delts and stuff get like really quite tight. So when I actually turn that Serratus on, stuff just gets crampy. But once that eases off, it's all good. And yeah, just extend my feet out towards like away from me, so like I'm trying to heel tap the floor. It gets a bunch of TVA and core muscle going because I have to resist my hips extending from the ground whilst I'm lying there. I'll get up and then I do like I don't know three reps a side or something, like with decently hard breathing. Get up and then I do some of those hip flexion iso holds, which is I literally pick my leg up, like standing nice and tall. I pick my knee up like in front of me as high as it will go without any like either my butt tucking under or me having to round down to get it closer to my chest, and then kind of brace my core and just let go with my hand and try and hold it there for as long as I can, or until I do about 3 breaths, and then I'll do the other side, and I'll essentially repeat that drill, but instead of it being like straight up and down in front of me in hip flexion, I'll pull it out to the side for squats because I use a bit of an abducted stance, so I need some of that abduction range going on, some of that lateral hip going. And then just do like 5 to 6 like kind of lunges each side, like decent controlled knee touch lunges, just to get the legs warmed up a bit, and then I'll just hit the bar. But that literally takes maybe 5 minutes all in,
Yep.
depending on how angry I get at the knee sleeves at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, like, yeah, as you say, a lot of people get like mad focused on like doing tons of mobility and foam rolling and stuff.
Yeah, like it won't.
Unless your physio is giving you a bunch of stuff to do because you're broken, you don't need to do that.
I don't think they will. Like you're not going to elicit a whole
They
bunch of
won't, but
change.
like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's examples where you have a couple more things to do than others, but it's not much.
Yeah, like or it shouldn't be much more. Like if your warm up takes 15 minutes, it's too much warming up. Like come on. The
Um,
But yeah, anything else we want to cover for warm up stuff? I think that's pretty much it.
no, it's pretty. As I say, I feel it's in general very overcomplicated. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we will catch you
Uh,
guys in the next episode then.